Hello YouTube, this is Dakota from Bowtied Media, and today we've got a brand new installment of This Week in EDM, where we go over songs that came out, well, this past week in EDM. As always, we've got 5 different categories: trash, bad, meh, good, and standout. There also is a Spotify link down below for a playlist where all of these songs go each and every week if you want to follow that for easy access listening. And as always, these are just my opinions. Do not take them as gospel truth. So without any further ado, let's hop into it. Starting us off in the trash category is W&W's OIIA Spinning Cat. I'm really not sure what the point of the song is. It's a random meme song with nothing special to it. Literally any producer could make the song, and with its big room techno sound, it's both generic as hell and sonically quite empty. Then we got Alan Walker, Forever Young. It's only been a week since Alan Walker dropped his worst project to date, and he's still out here pumping poor derivative versions of songs he's already made. Why did this song come out when you had an album just drop a week ago and you're using the same album art? And also, this is one of the songs that is probably worse than a lot of the other songs on that album that you just dropped. I don't know why this song didn't even make it on the album. Lots of questions. Don't like the song. Then we're hopping into the bad category. We've got Adventure Club, Kompany, and Sara Benyo with Set Me Free. Quite a directionless track, I think, both structurally and sonically, as there wasn't really much going well for it in all areas, honestly. The drops aren't great in their own right, with kind of a boring rhythm and bass house drops that just didn't really do much to keep me interested. We got Slushii and HYO. I don't know how to actually pronounce that one properly, but with the song Money. Incredibly generic electropop with the simplest, most bland lyricism from HYO. Slushii added this kind of trap beat to the whole thing, but I just didn't really think it matched the lyricism, and the song just doesn't really sound all that great to me. Then we got Armin van Buuren and Omnia with Love. This track has all the makings and attempts to be a big anthemic tech house, almost translating track, but the drops feel pretty empty. It's like Armin and Omnia were like actively trying to rip off an Enema style track, and yeah, I just don't think it worked well for them. Then we're moving into the meh category. We've got Ganja White Knight featuring Stick Figure with Who Set the World on Fire. A grimy dubstep track with a kind of a reggae tinge to it that just isn't all that appealing to me personally. The mixing feels a little too distorted at times, and the lyricism just isn't all that interesting to me again here. So that's why it's just in meh. Then we got KSHMR with Sun Goes Down. KSHMR is really bouncing around a ton of genres, and right now this one is an explicitly drum and bass style that has a bit of that still Indian flair to it, as KSHMR always adds. The mixing on this track isn't great, and overall I think the production is fairly generic for drum and bass standards. Then we got the TroyBoi remix of Hey Homie, originally by Sofi Tukker. Not surprised that this track got a remix package, as it is one of my favorites from the latest Sofi Tukker LP with Bread, and it's a perfect song for remixes for how chill the original is. That being said, this TroyBoi remix doesn't really do a whole ton and feels pretty lackluster, all things considered. Kind of just like a basic trap beat here with Sofi's original vocals and nothing much more.
Look me in the eyes when I let you go.
Ookay and Linney with Drive Away Slow. I didn't really care for this track, as the song is fairly slow and lacks that kind of oomph or real creative production that I kind of come to know and love from Ookay that makes his stuff pretty interesting. So yeah, I thought this one was just okay. Then we've got Marshmello and Jonas Brothers with Slow Motion. Another straightforward electropop track that definitely feels more Jonas Brothers than it does Marshmello. As someone that has quite literally listened to the full discography from both of these artists through multiple times, yes, I'm actually a pretty big Jonas Brothers fan, this song is pretty much whatever. Offers nothing really new, but isn't really that bad. Then we got Aspyer with Overdrive, a decent garage tune with fairly standard vocal chops. All things considered, I don't really think it's a bad track, just isn't quite as strong and lands a little bit more generic in the grand scheme of the garage space. And the mixing also wasn't fantastic either. Then we got Feint with Divided Sky. A fine new liquid drum and bass track from Feint, but nothing too special in the grand scheme of his own discography, where Feint often is top tier drum and bass, and this one just lands a little bit more, yeah, again, fairly generic. Then we got Whipped Cream and MEMBA with Redline. I was really looking forward to this collab on paper, but in execution, I felt the song was just a little off for me. The vocal samples dominated a lot of the track, and there was this minimalistic side trance final act, but there just wasn't, I don't know, this felt like there's a lot of conflicting sound styles, and the whole track just felt a little messy and a little directionless overall. Then we got John Summit featuring Cloves with Focus. A pretty flat new release from John Summit with a little song progression or switch-ups, opting for a very kind of linear track style with essentially half a produced song just copied and pasted for the back half, making it just a regular song in length. So yeah, not too bad, but also you could do a little bit more. Then we got Arco, Punctual, and New Era with Generation Love. A fairly by-the-books progressive track with a lot of stutter style on the back end of the drops. Fairly anthemic with its vocal chants, but in the end it's, again, another pretty linear one. Then we're moved into the good category. We're starting off with Teddy Killers with Skydiver. Another intense dance floor drum and bass track, but with a particularly high synth melody. I like the backing production, the practical drum and bass elements quite a bit, and it takes the track way further than I feel like it should has or any justification to. But the leads were just a little too screechy for me to really enjoy this one a ton or keep coming back to it. Then we've got Rameses B with Asteroid II. Second version of an older removed NCS track, and this time I think the track is a great improvement while modernizing the mixing and sound design. Still very much Rameses B's signature space drum and bass, but it just keeps working for him. Then we got Hyper Potions and Milk with Night Drive, pure 100% remix. A more intense and energetic remix of the original with a more complex drill flair to it. I do prefer this remix over the original as it feels like a more complete track sonically, and I love the electric guitar kind of final riff on this one. Then we got Zed's Dead with One of These Mornings. Another jittery, nostalgic dubstep track from Zed's Dead in anticipation of what I'm pretty sure and I believe to be is a larger album releasing later this year. I think this is probably the weakest of the three sort of presumed singles up to this point, but I still do very much enjoy the sound design, vocal samples, and production here. I'm just not as maybe sonically unique as the other two singles were. Then we got Cloudcage and Lewyn with The Way We Get It. A great new melodic house track with a soft, sort of serene vocal to it and a comforting atmosphere. This is quite frankly, and I think one of Cloudcage's best songs. Then we got Mala featuring Sunny with Mask On from the new All In LP. This track and primary version of the sort of double album release is a bass, more techno house cut with a deep bass line and simple melody. And while I do think the song was maybe not as great as some of the other ones on the album, I think holistically this is a stronger track than the sort of double counter album in Blackout. And next up, we've got Lucid with Adrift. A nice drum and bass track from Lucid with a down-tempo-esque midsection with lots of intentional empty moments. This is a strong, more relaxed style of drum and bass. Then we got Molecule featuring Whatever with Don't Let Go. A really nice melodic, almost progressive house fusion track with a simplistic song structure and great mixing. And honestly, if it wasn't for Whatever's straightforward but strong vocal presence, this song would have lost a lot of energy. So big thanks to Whatever on this one. Then we got Puppet and Distant with Who's Haunting You. Puppet has made his return after a year and a bit, and he's seemingly back into the swing of his electro rock stylized production. And it's time, or I guess this time I should say, it's a return to that more kind of equal state, opposed to his kind of 2020 and beyond tracks that were primarily dominated by rock. And that's not to say that this one isn't, but it's definitely more of a callback to his mid-2010s production style that landed him on Monster Cat that I personally resonate with a ton. So this is a fun return to Puppet, and I'm excited to hear what's coming down the pipeline. Then we got Party Peoples with Believe in Love from the new Virtual Clarity EP. A bright and steady funky house tune with some new disco influences and a simple melody. This is more of a straightforward track from Party Peoples with less vocal emphasis than the past tracks have typically leaned, but is just as enjoyable. Then we got Rose Grey with Just Two from the new Louder Please LP. I really like this, and this is a fun, engaging, and high-quality deep house track with a strong commercial edge to it, with a bit of an early 2010s tone and bright synth-pop melody. Rose Grey is not an artist that I typically had on my radar, or really at all until this album, but I'm really liking this new record. And then we've got the other side of things with Mala's Alter Ego with Hustler from the new Blackout LP. My favorite track from this Alter Ego record is actually one that is more commanding and an aggressive sort of drum and bass tune with a catchy hip-hop hook. That being said, like I sort of mentioned earlier, this is the strongest song I think from this LP, and as a whole, I do think the original Mala project is stronger than Blackout is. Then we got Riot with Back to Back. Riot is apparently entering a new and seemingly third era of their kind of defined style, and the introduction to that style is this kind of jittery bro step that feels like a mixture of their original and their most recent styles kind of thrown into one in a mixing blender. We've got the return of the more cinematic vocal samples and big movements, just with a more typical snare kick to it. I'm feeling pretty good about things to come with Riot if this is the direction they're going to continue to go for in the foreseeable future. Then we got Veer with Crit Hit. Veer coming into 2025 with a new twist on their established sound, but sort of added a more drum and bass leaning edge to it, and quite frankly, it's some of my favorite sound design of theirs yet. It's still got their kind of classic rhythm flair to it, but it's a much more, I would say, overall polished production with stronger movements. Then we've got Mr. Bill, Snails, and Pavin with 10,000 Volts, a very unique minimalistic track that doesn't really land on one genre itself. It's got some hip-hop lyricism from Pavin, but otherwise is a fairly kind of wonky dubstep-leaning track with a very unique sound design to it all. Then we got Coven and Aeon Mode with Polarized. I think this is a great, well-produced, high-quality drum and bass track from these two, and I think this collaboration was much needed. That being said, it's fairly tame by either of their standards, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. I just know that they maybe could have gone a little harder. And we've got Nettie with Strangers, The Vision, Isolation from the new Passerby LP. This debut Nettie LP is quite fantastic and has a ton of variety in genre and tone. This track in particular is a more future-based kind of lo-fi leaning track with a digital soundscape and atmosphere. Almost like a low-key underground track that just sounds amazing. Then we got Knock2 Naliya with Shake the City from the new No Limit album by Knock2. This is pretty much a quintessential Knock2 track with a strong vocal feature and high-quality bass house production with easily danceable beats. This is a pretty solid track within the track list, as it's definitely one of the more straightforward ones from the No Limit album. We've got Vladimir, KSHMR, and Apache featuring Rudy with Orators. I'm sure I butchered all of those, but this huge, grand-sounding operatic track with big orchestral elements is quite fantastic. And for a track that stays fairly down the whole time, this kind of acts more as a purely operatic song than a strictly EDM one, with no real big drop. But my goodness, this is a powerfully strong and just well-produced track. And then we're moving into the standout category. We've got More Kismet with Bitter, for the lack of a better word. Incredible start to More Kismet's year with a banger first single from what might be a fantastic 2025 down the road with some album or EP, I'm sure, in the works. I think they have really honed in their craft, maintaining their creative production, but calming the intensity down a little bit so it's not so sporadic or hard to engage with at times. The production is still colorful and shimmering, the vocals are great, and I think the song doesn't overstay its welcome. And finally, my number one song of the week is Bad Computer with Undefined. Bad Computer, wow, pretty much just made a track that is purely genre undefined. A mixture of techno, bass house, complextro, and glitch. This track isn't so much a get up and dance kind of one, but one that's incredibly unique for its sound design and genre fusions. It's part eerie, part big energy, but ultimately a well-refined and brilliant new cut for Bad Computer that explores whole new territory. But that's been This Week in EDM. Let me know what you think of all songs in the comment section below. But other than that, I'm Dakota from Bowtied Media, and I'll see you guys in another video.